try to get Elliott's clip from last week.
In Calgary that's not working.
Wow, I just randomly scrolled to that.
That's good.
Whoa.
Hello, welcome to Hat Trick. I am Jordan Daller-Coltman. I am joined, as always, by my brother Braden Daller-Coltman, and we are joined by the ever-present and all-knowing Elliott Tanti. We'll get to that in a little bit because topic 2, man, oh man, did he nail it. He hit it right on the head. Predictions last week, and he got it right. So we'll give him all the due credit necessary when we get there. But first off, how are you doing, Elliott? And in that crystal ball of yours, is it still as foggy as it was a week ago, or are you starting to see things coming?
Oh no, I continue to be right 1 out of every 100 guesses I make. So my record continues to stay strong, and
keep them coming.
Hopefully we'll continue here on Hat Trick Sports.
All right. Well, we'll see how Braden does in his prediction business. As we know, he's made some very bold choices earlier this year. We'll see how it goes. All right, let's get right to it. We've got a jam-packed show for you this week. Here we go. This is Hat Trick. Okay. Topic 1 this week is obviously a little bit somber, but we're going to also treat it as a bit of a celebration. As I'm sure everyone listening to this knows by now, Canada lost one of its hockey icons, a man who never played a game in the NHL, never hoisted a Stanley Cup as a winning player or a coach or general manager, but equally, I would argue, has made just as large an impact as any player or coach, general manager, or person directly related to the game. As he's made as big an impact as any of them, and in many ways even larger because his impact was one that went right to the heart of what it means to be Canadian and what it means to be a hockey fan in Canada. Obviously, I'm talking about Walter Gretzky and his passing on Thursday, late Thursday. First, I guess it goes without saying how sort of iconic he was and how sort of influential that relationship of father to son was. He is, nicknamed and sort of known as Canada's hockey dad, the original hockey dad. Whether or not that's true or not is sort of irrelevant. That's the legend. And in many ways, what Walter Gretzky leaves behind is a legend. The story of he was too cold out at the outdoor rink and wanted to stay warm in the kitchen watching his boys play hockey. So he froze the backyard, and whether it was the original outdoor rink or not, it was probably the most famous. Wayne Gretzky learning to play there and obviously ultimately becoming the greatest hockey player of all time. I guess we'll go to Elliott first. What were your reflections or thoughts when you heard of the passing of Walter Gretzky?
Yeah, I think obviously when you take a look at just the way in which it seems the entire nation, the entire sport of hockey has reacted to this news. There's no better way to show how influential this man has been on the game and in our world. I think it's interesting you say, for someone who has never actually played the game to be so influential is quite an astonishing thing. I got to say, what a great celebration of life. 82 years of outstanding life. I imagine there'll be very few that have lived a life like Walter Gretzky has and met the many people that he has and engaged things. And I think that's a life that should be celebrated. The other thing that strikes me is in the last couple days, I've been thinking a lot about how other people have been reacting to Walter Gretzky because I'd never met him. And I admittedly not a major influence on my life. But I think part of that has to do with, and I know you boys and I share this, is that, we were gifted and privileged to grown up having really special dads. But there's a lot of people in this country and in this, in our society who Walter Gretzky was the role model of the father that they wanted to emulate because they didn't have that fatherly figure to emulate when they moved into fatherhood. And I think he has, not intentionally, but he has influenced a lot of fathers who otherwise didn't have a similar type of role model in their life. To see the way that he cared for his son and his kids and the way that he interacted, the professionalism, the loving way he approached the game. For me, what's been really striking is just how many people have commented on that and how he's influenced them, which I think is really interesting. And what a beautiful legacy to leave on.
Braden?
Yeah, I think what was most striking about Walter was that he was always bringing kids into his home. He was always sharing his life, his stories with these kids. And he not only exemplified this love for the game, but a humility, a selflessness, and pride. You know, we talk about how proud Canadians are. This was the son of two immigrants that he was first generation Canadian and took that on. He became what everyone in Canada, at least, when we talk about love for hockey, it's that love for Canadian, the true Canadian spirit. And I think that that's what runs so true in the game of hockey. And I think that that's why he's, like you said, an icon, not only because he's the great one's dad, he's been a huge influence for the culture and the nature of what hockey in Canada is today. And everybody's got a story about him.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple that I was going to, they're secondhand. They're not my own personal story. I never had the privilege of meeting him or knowing him. I have a friend who I work with who grew up in the Toronto area, and he remembers very clearly Walter being at tournaments. Even, I mean, this is long after Wayne even retired. I mean, he would still go to hockey tournaments, and he kind of loved being Walter Gretzky. And I think that there's something kind of loving about that too. I think he enjoyed being a little small town celebrity, but never in kind of an egotistical way. He just enjoyed being part of the community. And I think he was grateful that because of the accolades of his son, it had elevated him to a position where people wanted to be around him, and he loved to be around people, it seemed, which is what's really lovely. The two stories I was going to share really quickly. One was the Oilers have won their 4th Stanley Cup, and the Oilers are all in the dressing room sort of sitting around. They're exhausted. They've done the media, they've done the champagne, all of that. And Walter is there, and he sort of sits down next to his son, and he turns to him and he says, they're going to trade you, right? And Wayne looks at him like, what are you talking about? It's the first time Wayne had ever had any inclination. And Walt's like, yeah, no, they're talking about trading you. And Wayne didn't believe him. And obviously later that summer he was traded to LA. But it's funny because his dad already knew. His dad was so aware of what was going on. His dad was so sort of dialed in. And I think his dad was, even to that point, very protective, very aware of how to make sure that his, he was being a dad, but also had no timing. Your kid's just won the Stanley Cup, and he is not in the right headspace to take that information. I think Wayne's actually told that story too, about sort of being like, I don't know why you thought that was the right time. But anyway, I think that's part of it. Right to the very end, he was a hockey dad. And that's my second anecdote, which is a story that Wayne told after his final game at Madison Square Garden. I'll probably remember, that last game, the big sort of celebration after with the waving, and he didn't take his gear off for about 3 or 4 hours after the game. But what Wayne told a personal story about the fact that, he had arranged so that his dad and him could take a limo to the game together that night, just to sort of recreate those early games when his dad took him to the hockey games. He wanted, his last game, he wanted his dad to still take him to the game the way he did his very first, Adam novice game or whatever it was. And in the car, apparently Walter was trying to convince him not to retire the whole time. No, you could play one more year, because he loved watching his son play hockey that much, And I think that was such a great story that Wayne turns to him apparently and says, Dad, I have 5 goals this year. That used to be a good weekend for me. Like, I'm ready to go. But, Walt's heart was still just, he'd watched his little boy. That's who he was seeing, And I think that that's what's really lovely about it. We just watched the Tiger Woods documentary, and you've got sort of the complete opposite side of a scale of a father-son relationship where, Earl Woods pushed his son to be the greatest, and he turned out to be the greatest. But you have a guy like Walt who clearly pushed his son, but did so in such a loving and in a generous way, that I do think that's why his legacy is truly that of, like Elliott said, the guy everybody wanted to look to be a role model for them. So obviously, a sad day for hockey, and a sad day for Canada, but also one where we all got to spend a little bit of time reflecting on our memories of that and the passing of the torch. It also sounded like the Gretzky family had some time. It sounded like they had about 12 or 15 days all together in Brantford together. So that's really lovely too, that at least they had that closure. So best wishes obviously to the Gretzky family, and
hats off to Wally. That's what he went by, eh?
Yeah. Hats off to Walter. That's topic 1. Topic 2 this week is brought to us by Busy Bee Vegan. Are you feeling hungry? Busy Bee Vegan is a plant-based meal prep service offering pre-made, delicious, and healthy plant-based meals to the greater Toronto area. Whether you're curious about plant-based vegan eating, looking to improve your overall health and wellness, or simply too busy to cook, Busy Bee is for you. Their plans are focused on eating clean without sacrificing taste and contributing to a healthy planet. They have made it super simple. Choose and order your meals from the multiple plans they offer, and they will deliver your meals in environmentally friendly compostable containers right to your door. You can find them on Instagram at Busy Bee Vegan Meals or on Facebook at Busy Bee Vegan. Go check out a small local business in Toronto and save the hassle of COVID grocery shopping and cooking. Let the Busy Bees feed you buzz-worthy meals. Okay, topic 2 this week. Previously on Hat Trick.
And I got to say, if you're going to ask me last week, there's going to be a Canadian team coach getting fired, I would not have picked the Montreal Canadiens. I would have picked Jeff Ward and the Calgary Flames.
Wow. So Elliott Tanti, Nostradamus, calls it, tees it up and calls it. Do they do that in snooker? Do they call their shot, Elliott? Because if so, you nailed that. Daryl Sutter is the new head coach in Calgary. Jeff Ward fired. How do you feel? You must feel good.
I mean, it's awful to have cold called the firing of someone and celebrating that this guy lost his job. Like, let's not go too deep into this.
It's the Calgary Flames.
There is a concept from previous podcasts I've done called Tanti polling, where I have been particularly good at predicting things at times. And so I would just call this a Tanti polling moment. Look, I had a feeling when you lose 6-1 to Ottawa, it's not looking good. It seems like there was a chance. People thought Calgary was going to be a better team. I went with my gut. It ended up working out. That's just how it is sometimes, boys. Sometimes you're right. And you know what? Look out, Elliott Friedman. There's a new Elliott in town.
There you go. All right.
5 minutes before that call, that Elliott's going, hey, what's the name of the coach of the Calgary Flames?
Well, he doesn't need to know about that now because I'm sure he remembers the name of the coach now because the old is new again. Let's just go through this really quickly. Jeff Ward fired, and they hired Daryl Sutter again. Daryl Sutter last coached the Calgary Flames in 2006. Okay, he stepped down as the head coach. He remained as the GM for 2 more years before moving to LA, where he won 2 Stanley Cups. But let me just sort of set the table for you. The last time Daryl Sutter was the head coach of the Calgary Flames, the Oilers head coach was Craig McTavish the first time. The Carolina Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup. I'm not going to tell you who they beat. And Joe Thornton was the MVP and scoring leader of the NHL. So Daryl Sutter comes back from a very long time away to coach the Calgary Flames to try to finish what he started. They obviously made it to the finals in 2004, lost to Nikolai Habibulin. If you're a Calgary Flames fan, you'll get that reference. Braden, what were your thoughts when you saw that the old was new and Daryl Sutter was back?
Well, I've got some great memories of Daryl Sutter as the Calgary Flames coach, namely on all of those Battle of Albertas when the Oilers would beat on them. I don't know. I mean, this seems like an opportunity for Calgary to please some fans. It also seems like an opportunity for Daryl Sutter to come out of retirement and see. It seems like he probably feels like this is a good opportunity to make some money for his cattle farm in Viking, Alberta. I mean, I don't know. I think this was inevitable for Jeff Ward. I think that he had that interim tag still on his, so it seems like Treliving was looking for an opportunity to make upgrade. I think that this might help some of those disgruntled players on that Calgary bench, like Sam Bennett, might get Goudreau going. I mean, time will tell. That's what I got to say with this one. Time will tell.
Yeah, Elliott, obviously you called it, but what do you think about the Daryl Sutter part?
Well, I would never in a million years have said that Daryl Sutter was going to be the person that was going to be replacing him. I don't know, guys. This feels similar to the situation in Pittsburgh. And I know we disagree on this. I feel like that, that change is sort of an interim move to just get through COVID, get through kind of a shitty situation. And there's going to be some more long-term thinking going on in Pittsburgh in their GM situation. And I think it's similar here. I don't think that this is a long-term move unless they find immense success really quickly. But I just, I think for players like Sam Bennett, okay, yeah, that's a fresh start. But I don't think that Sutter really coaches the way that NHL players need to be coached these days. I mean, I think you need to be an incredibly gifted communicator, and I don't know that the raw way of coaching that Sutter's known for is necessarily going to translate. I could be completely wrong, but this feels really transitory to me. It feels like a kick in the pants, and I'm guessing I would be shocked if he's still the coach 2 years from now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was just the coach until the end of the season.
You know what it reminded me of, Elliott, and that's sort of teeing off what you just said there. It reminds me a little bit of when they brought in Hitchcock here in Edmonton, and the idea that they needed a veteran guy, somebody to sort of stabilize a floundering ship and to figure out what was next. So you might be right. It may not last beyond the season, but even if it does feel like a bit of a stopgap measure. I would also say, as I said a week ago or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Montreal, I would argue whether this goes past the season or they hire one more coach, I think we're at the very end of whatever Brad Treliving's time is as the GM. He has to get this coaching decision right, or he's the next guy out of there, right? Anyway, we'll leave it at that. That's topic 2. Do you or someone you know own a small business? Are you looking to grow or to reach new customers? Hey, why not let us help? Hattrick is looking for unique brands, businesses, and products to advertise on our show. You can find out how we can help spread the word about your business by contacting us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Here's topic 3 this week. We're going to play a game. We had a lot of fun last week playing Where Were You When? So this is a slightly new version of a similar idea. This is called Who Said What? And I'm going to play each of you. I've got three clips from the past week. Whether it's press conferences, interviews, just some sound bites. Okay. I'm going to play each of you a sound bite. You're going to guess who it is. And if you can guess who it is, you're going to tell me what they're talking about. All right. What's the context? All right. This is like a little rundown of some of the week's news. Most of it is hockey. One of them is not hockey. It's a related sport. We'll get to why I'm doing that after, but they are hockey related this week. So there are 3 for each of you. You can see if you can get a hat trick each. And all 3, you get a hat trick. There's no prize other than, I don't know, bragging rights and feeling special about yourselves. And other than that, we'll start with that. Do you guys understand the game? Elliott's shaking his head.
I understand. I'm not going to be very good at it, but I understand it.
Well, not with that attitude.
Well, Elliott, I'm going to give you an easy one to start with. Okay, this one's for Elliott.
No, we love that. We love going without a point in 3 days for sure. It's great.
All right, Elliott, who was that?
So that's Leon Draisaitl after their 3rd loss in a row to Toronto, responding to a reporter who I believe asked him, are you feeling down about having not scored any goals in the last 3 games?
But he started that interview by saying, speaking of losing.
Yeah. So obviously a little hot under the collar. But
Mark Spector is such an idiot sometimes too. Anyway, that's
all right. We'll leave it there. So Elliott, you are 1 for 1 so far. Well done. Good start. All right, Braden, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Born ready. All right, here it comes.
I love games.
He knows that he's not on top of it. He knows. It might not come across when he talks to you guys that he cares but he knows. He knows that his game is not where he should be. He knows more than anybody else, even me. So that's not an issue.
Do you know who that is?
Yeah, that's that polarizing fool in Montreal by the name of Marc Bergevin. And I think he's talking only because of the latest news and their goaltending situation. I think he's talking about Carey Price and how he needs to step up his game.
If I had a little bell, I'd go ding, ding, ding. Well done.
Oh, right.
Well done. 1 for 1. Yes, Marc Bergevin, they fired their goalie coach.
Right.
Their
Because
goalie
that'll
coach, Stefan Wyatt, I think it is. Maybe Jimmy Henry can tweet us whether or not I butchered that name. But yeah, Mark Bergevin firing the goalie coach. And yeah, he was getting sort of hammered by the media saying, how does a goalie coach really make a difference? Isn't it on your goaltenders? And he was sort of defending Carey Price, saying, yes, Carey's not playing well, but Carey's fully aware. So well done. That's Mark Bergevin, who still seems to find a way onto our show weekly. All right, are you ready, Elliott? Here's number 2. This one's a little bit harder. I'm not going to lie. This one's a little bit harder.
You knew it was going to be a good game. That was a bull hit. Brando had his head down in the corner, and he took a liberty on a guy that was in a vulnerable spot. So that's a cheap shot there, and we lost a great player, and it is great to see him skate off the ice by himself, but he was obviously in a bad spot.
Yeah, I know who this is. When you say I think it's a Boston player. Is it Bergeron?
No, try again.
Oh,
you're so close.
Oh, who is it? It's someone from that Boston team.
You know what Alberta does not have? They're completely free of
rats. No, not helping.
Okay.
Anyway,
Brad
I know
Marchand, the rat.
Brad Marchand. Oh yes, Brad Marchand.
Now, what is he talking about? Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I don't remember who they were playing. I watched the clip, but it's hilarious because that's one of those interviews from like the the commentators up in the stands and the players on the bench. So that's what makes it even more hilarious that he's just like yelling into the abyss and using some really strong language about a hit that occurred in one of their games, but I don't know who the opponent was. So I know that there was a hit.
Well, I'll bail you out. Yeah, it was against Washington. It was Washington and Boston, and Tom Wilson was the offending player. He hit Brandon
notorious Tom Wilson
and knocked him unconscious. He was very woozy getting to the bench. And Tom Wilson, as a repeat offender, has been suspended 7 games. So that is a I think they called it like a 12th or something of the entire season when it's only a 58th game. It's a significant amount of games to lose a full week worth of games. So 7 games, Tom Wilson. You can't go. Not everyone can be perfect every time, Elliott. So we'll call it 1 for 2 so far. All right, Braden, here is your second one.
Yeah, I think I can be stronger, even stronger all the time, like corners and at the net. Be more confidence there and use my big boot.
My big boot? What the? Use his big boot. Who's got an accent like that?
Oh, I know who it is. That's a good
My
one.
big
That's a good
boot.
one.
Okay.
There's no shame in passing, Braden.
What do you mean? I gotta at least take a guess here. I mean, it sounds like Pasternak, but I don't know why he'd be talking about his big boots.
Is that your guess? You're gonna kick yourself. You're gonna kick yourself on this one.
A big boot.
Yeah.
Is it a current? Like this is a current event. This is a current.
Yeah, and we are also on the clock here, so we're not gonna spend too much time here. So just take a guess. Everyone at home is screaming it right now at you.
Really? Oh, yeah. Well, let them scream. I'm gonna have to pass because I have no idea.
This is pool party. This is Yessie Pool Party.
Today, he used his big boot.
That's right. So he was asked how he felt his game was going, and he said he's trying to be stronger on the puck and he wants to be better in front of the net. And clearly, someone, probably Jim Playfair, has told him he needs to get in there and use his big butt, and he's now aware.
Oh my God, his big boot.
Yessie Pool.
That's awesome. Man, I like how that guy's playing. Hustling hard this year.
Elliott, this is your last one, and both of your last 2 ones. I lied. I said there was only one that wasn't hockey related. There's actually 2 that are unhockey related. So this is your non-hockey one, Elliott, and then we'll do Braden's. And I'll just tee you up by saying this is an older clip. This is not a current clip, but it relates to someone who was in the news this week for a very specific reason. And we'll see how you do with this one. You may or may not have seen this clip, but either way, here we go.
66, that's my number with the Dallas Cowboys. This number here, who is Lemonex? Why is he wearing my number?
I'll play it for you one more time.
66, that's my number with the Dallas Cowboys. This number here, who is Lemonex? Why is he wearing my number?
Any idea?
Is that Chris Schultz?
It is Chris Schultz, the late great Chris Schultz, who passed away this week of a heart attack. Have you seen that clip before?
I know, but I saw it referenced this week when he was just because of the memorialization of him and the conversations that have been happening.
So I wanted to play it because, again, it is he was a football player, played for the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, but more relevant to our lives, he has been an analyst for CFL football for as long as we've been alive on TSN, and a great character, right? One of those guys who was bigger than life, not only because he was literally bigger than life, he was like 6'7" and a big lineman, but that actually came from a clip, a little segment James Duthie did a few years ago talking about how more and more NHL players were using larger and larger numbers and using lineman numbers, and he made a joke about not being able to pronounce Lemieux, called him Lemonex.
Chris Schultz was the best at explaining defense and football. He was just a master of talking about line shifts and all the little mini battles that are going on. And he could describe it in a way that just made so much sense. And another tragic loss this week.
Yeah, and he was always so passionate too, right? Like it's the same thing with Walter and all those people that you just have to listen to. He was always so passionate about what he's talking about. It's infectious.
Yeah, big loss for the Canadian sports media, especially the CFL, which of course it's funny. We'll talk maybe more about the CFL later, but it sort of just disappeared with COVID because they never got a season in. So we never really got to see.
It's poorly managed, Jordan. That's why.
Yes, of course. We'll have that conversation at another time. But a great loss that we never got to hear him or see him talk about the CFL one more time. So Chris Schultz, may he rest in peace. And we will move on to Braden. 2 for 3, Elliott. That's not bad on the inaugural edition of Who Said What.
Maybe Elliott polling.
Elliott polling.
Tanty
All right,
polling.
Braden.
Fancy polling. Thank you.
All right, Braden. You're next here with your last one. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. This one's for you, Braden. This one is not hockey related. That's your only clue, but it is relevant to this week's. And this is a clip from. It was actually, I believe, an interview done yesterday. Here it is.
Oh, jeez.
I'm so excited. I've been wanting to tell you guys for a while, as I'm sure you can know, but yeah, just so excited to be here. I've already talked about Atlanta's my home, so this is like my family lost it.
Any idea who that is?
Atlanta's my home. Well, all I can think of, the NBA All-Star Game was just taking place in Atlanta. Atlanta's my home.
Other basketball related news in Atlanta though this week.
Oh yeah, I can't recall her name, but she just became one of the co-owners of the Atlanta WNBA team.
Yes, that's correct. The Atlanta Dream have a new ownership group, and the member of that ownership group is Renee Montgomery, who is a player for the Atlanta Dream. She played 2 seasons, and then she opted out of last season because she chose, instead of going into the bubble where they were playing, she wanted to be more active in her community, and she was a huge activist for social justice, for civil rights. She was marching with the Black Lives Matter movement, and of course, as you probably remember, the Atlanta Dream became a big part of that conversation because previous owner, Kelly Loeffler, then senator, who just lost her seat to Raphael Warnock in Georgia, is a racist, flat out. We'll just label her as what she is. She's a racist, and she refused to let the Atlanta Dream be a part of any league led Black Lives Matter association movement or association or anything like that. And this player, obviously one of her players who spoke out against her, led many of those other players in protests against her. And now, as one of the greatest sports karma moments of all time, she's able to literally buy the team off of Kelly Loeffler and walk away with ownership of the team that was trying to muzzle them. So I think it's a great story, frankly.
Yeah, good for her.
Renee Montgomery, good for her. One of 3 owners. She partnered with 2 local business people, a man and a woman. So the other cool part about that is that they are owned 2 parts by women in those leadership roles, which is great. The question is whether she'll play or she'll just take on the ownership role and enjoy that now. But either way,
what if she gets traded? That's the issue. That is a conflict of interest there.
Yeah, that would definitely run into some issues. I don't know. I can't remember of a player owner situation. We've certainly had player coach situations.
Mario Lemieux. Oh, yeah, Lemonex.
Yeah. That's right, Lemonex.
All right, that was pretty good, boys. You tied there. You got 2 for 2 each. I'm gonna say that this game was a success, and maybe we'll see it down the road.
I look forward to it.
Me too.
Thank you both for joining me this week. It was so much fun. We will do it again next week. And until then, this is Hatrick. Hatrick is a member of the Ordinary Podcasting Network. It's produced every week by Jordan Dowler Coltman and Braden Dowler Coltman. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening. Was that stressful? Elliott looked super stressed.
Yeah, I
Some of them.
because on some weeks I'm really invested in sports and I'm like, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so this was one of those weeks where I wasn't listening to the radio. I
I
wasn't.
don't know, you
doing
did pretty well.
anything.